Good day, I am Rhea Cueto and now we will tackle about St. Augustine of Hippo. St. Augustine, originally named Aurelius Augustinus, he was a pivotal figure in the history of both philosophy and Christianity. Born in 354 centuries AD in Roman Africa, he led a life of philosophical inquiry and spiritual exploration. His philosophical contribution, especially in merging classical philosophy with Christian doctrine. He was a prominent figure in medieval philosophy. He was the first Christian philosopher who lived in the 4th and 5th century AD, making his contribution to philosophy and theology significant in both ancient and medieval thought. He was the Catholic Bishop of Hippo in Northern Africa. He served as bishop for 35 years, proving popular and inspirational to his largely uneducated and poor congregation. Augustine is best known for his work in reconciling Christian faith with classical philosophy, particularly the teachings of Plato and the philosophy of Neoplatonism. His most famous work, Confessions, is an autobiographical account of his spiritual journey and philosophical development. And the City of God, it is a city that prioritizes love of God and is predestined for salvation. Augustine explored topics such as the nature of evil, the problem of free will, and the relationship between the faith and reason. His profound writings influence on later medieval philosophers, particularly those in the scholastic tradition like Thomas Aquinas. One of St. Augustine's famous quote is, "Faith is to believe what do you not yet see. The reward for this faith is to see what you believe." It means that faith can provide a lens through which we perceive reality. If we have strong faith in something, we might actually bring it to fruition.
Saint Thomas Aquinas, after completing his education, he devoted himself to a life of traveling, writing, teaching, public speaking, and preaching. Religious institutions and universities alike cheered to benefit from the wisdom of the Christian apostle. Thomas Aquinas' famous quote is, "To one who has faith, no explanation is necessary. To one without faith, no explanation is impossible. Beware the man of a single book. We must love them both, those whose opinion we share and those whose opinion we reject. For both have labored in the search for truth, and both have helped us in finding it." Saint Thomas Aquinas, also known as Thomas of Aquino, he was born in Italy in 1225 and became a Dominican friar and theologian who lived in the 13th century. Thomas' best-known works are the unfinished Summa Theologica in 1265 to 1274, as well as Disputed Question on Truth 1256 to 1259. The Summa Contra Gentiles 1259 to 1265. His commentaries on Christian scripture and on Aristotle also form an important part of his body of work. Saint Thomas believed that the existence of God could be proven in 5 ways. First, observing movement in the world as proof of God, the immovable mover. Second, observing cause and the effect and identifying God as the cause of everything. Third, concluding that impermanent nature of being proves the existence of a necessary being. God originates only from within himself. Fourth, noticing varying levels of human perfection and determining that a supreme perfect being must therefore exist. Fifth, knowing that natural being could not have intelligence without it being granted to them it by God. Substitute to defending people's ability to naturally perceive proof of God. Thomas also tackled the challenge of protecting God's image as an all-powerful being.
Anselm of Canterbury was a medieval philosopher and theologian known for his ontological argument for the existence of God. He argued that the concept of God as the greatest being implies his existence. Anselm of Canterbury, also known as Saint Anselm, was 11th century Benedictine monk, philosopher, and theologian. He served as the Archbishop of Canterbury and is best known for his contribution to scholastic philosophy and theology. Saint Anselm was one of the most important Christian thinkers of the 11th century. He is most famous in philosophy for having discovered and articulated the so-called ontological argument, and in theology for his doctrine of the atonement. Anselm has a saying, "God is that, than which nothing greater can be conceived." This line encapsulates the essence of his ontological argument for the existence of God. Anselm's famous quote reflects the core idea of his ontological argument. In essence, he is asserting that God, by definition, is the greatest thing conceivable being. Anselm's argument suggests that if we can conceive of a being that is the greatest, then that being must exist, because existing in reality is greater than existing merely in mind. The quote is a pivotal point on Anselm's attempt to demonstrate the existence of God, pure reason, and the conceptual understanding of God's greatness. Critics and philosophers have debated the validity of the ontological for centuries. Now, here's a few examples of Anselm's work. First, we have the Proslogion. In this work, Anselm presents his famous ontological argument for the existence of God. Second is we have the Monologion, an earlier work in which Anselm explores various arguments for the existence and nature of God. Third is we have the Cordus Homo, or why God became man. Anselm's theological exploration of the necessity and purpose of the Incarnation, discussing why God chose to become human and person of Jesus Christ. Anselm's notable works include the ontological argument for the existence of God and his writing on the nature of atonement. His intellectual influence extended throughout the Middle Ages.
Hi everyone, so we already discussed some of the philosophers in the medieval philosophy era. Now this time we will be discussing another philosopher, which is Blaise Pascal. Are you familiar with him? If not, then I am here to provide some few information, a brief and a concise one about Blaise Pascal. Blaise Pascal was a French mathematician, physicist, and philosopher who lived during the 17th century. He was a significant figure in the development of mathematics, physics, and philosophy. He was born on Clermont-Ferrand on 1623. His father was a local judge. His mom died when he was still 3 years old. Despite of the early loss of his mom, it does not hinder Blaise Pascal to be a smart and intelligent individual. At the age of 19, he discovered the Pascaline, which is a mechanical calculator where you can add and subtract. During the time, it is one of the significant technological advancement. Other than that, he also discovered the probability theory, which means a lot, or which is now the cornerstone of the mathematics. Pascal propagated also in the doctrine of religion, which thought that we experience God through the heart rather than through the reason. For example, for a local example, we believed that the bitter melon, or commonly known as ampalaya in our local term, is bitter or pait, it's because for the reason that we experience it. So when we eat a bitter melon or an ampalaya, most likely or commonly our feedback is it is pait or it is bitter, right? So we believe in God even if we did not see Him. It's because we experience Him through the heart. To discuss the other significant contribution of Blaise Pascal in the physics and philosophy sector, my group member will discuss about it.
Thank you so much for that very informative information. So, to continue with the life of Pascal, Pascal Blaise made significant contributions across a various fields. In mathematics, he formulated the Pascal law, a principle that states a change in pressure applied to an enclosed fluid is transmitted undiminished to all portion of the fluid. The Pascal principles is a principle that is fundamental in hydrodynamics. In philosophy, Pascal is renewed for his profound collection of thoughts and reflection published in Pensis. In this work, he explored themes such as human nature, fate, reason, and the Weger argument regarding to believe in God. The Pascal Weger, one of his most famous philosophical concepts, which proposed that it is more rational to believe in God because the potential benefits of belief outweigh the consequences of disbelief. His multifaceted contribution to mathematics, physics, and philosophy make Pascal a remarkable figure in history, and Pensis remain a significant work in philosophical literature.